Thank you for having me, and thanking you for that generous introduction. I don't really consider myself in exile. In former life, I was a follower of Chairman Mao Zedong, live like him, dare to struggle, dare to win. That's what I sound like when I was your age. And one of my favorite stories with Mao Zedong was, for those of you who know the history, in 1965 he was isolated in the Chinese Communist Party. He was in exile, as it were. And the famous story is that he meets the French cultural minister, André Malraux, at the Forbidden City. And as Malraux is leaving Chairman Mao and entering his limousine, Mao walks over to him and whispers in his ear, "I am alone with the masses." So I like to think I'm alone with the masses. I had several possible lecture topics for this evening, and this, I think, is a generally informed audience, and the kinds of topics I normally speak about would be maybe more heavily footnoted, but the general message, I think, would be familiar to people in this room. And so I decided at the last minute to talk about a different topic this evening, one which would be of more interest, perhaps, to an activist audience, and also because several people were kind enough to drive me here, and I wouldn't want to inflict on them the same lecture. Unlike Fidel, I do have a sensitivity for the audience I'm speaking to. So the topic I'll speak about this evening is the one that I'm currently writing about, and which I think will be of some interest. The formal title, the title of the book, is A Farewell to Israel, the Coming Breakup of American Zionism. And basically what the topic is, or I should say the origin, the genesis of the topic is that I've noticed in the last few years I've been active, as Adam said. I first became publicly active in the Israel-Palestine conflict in June 1982 when Israel invaded Lebanon. And so we're already at a quarter-century anniversary of sorts. And the thing that's most striking in recent years is the complete collapse of the other side, as it were. And as somebody who wrote to me the other day from Columbia University, he said that now in public events, it's almost becoming too easy. The other side doesn't show up. When they do, they're very cautious about what they say. And what you basically see as a general picture is that those who are supporting Israel are now on college campuses reduced to an ethnic core. It's only the Jewish students, and of the Jewish students, it's really only about a third. 1/3, the Hillel crowd, 1/3 are basically indifferent, and 1/3 are supporting the other side, our side. And whereas with the Palestinian side, it's gone now well beyond the ethnic core, it's now reaching well into the mainstream. At a typical audience, the audience won't be more than 1/5 or 1/6 Arab or Muslim. It's going to be overwhelmingly pretty mainstream people who are showing up. And the crowds are getting larger. The crowds, for Israel are getting significantly smaller. And so basically what I want to look at is how do you account for this phenomenon? What exactly is going on? And that's what I want to talk about this evening. In order to do so, you have to have some historical background, and also you have to shed a large number of myths, which unfortunately many people, I think, mistakenly assume, especially the younger generation. There's the famous line often quoted, of the Hungarian Marxist George Lukács, that you have to look at the present as history. And I think very often, especially with this conflict, people don't see or don't know or are unfamiliar with the historical context. So we'll go back a little ways to try to flesh in that context, and its relevance will become clear as I proceed. It will come as a surprise, I think, to many of the younger people in the room that Israel only recently became a focus of American Jewish life. After World War II, the barriers to Jewish assimilation began rapidly to fall away. Before World War II, there were significant barriers to Jewish entry into the professions. If you looked at, for example, the Ivy League universities, only a handful of Jews taught there. And Professor Chomsky, for example, likes to tell the story that the reason MIT became a first-rate science and engineering school is because it didn't allow any Jewish mathematicians, or I should say Harvard didn't allow any Jewish mathematicians or physicists on its faculty, and so they all ended up walking down the street to MIT. And that was the picture, basically, until after World War II. Now the barriers to Jewish assimilation begin to fall away, and the opportunities for Jewish power and privilege, as it were, the American dream, begin to open up for American Jewry. And it's exactly at this moment when opportunities are now beckoning that this state of Israel is this state of Israel is created. And this state of Israel claims to be the state of the Jewish people, to speak in the name of the Jewish people, and also claims the primary loyalty of the Jewish people. And in many ways, this is now a catastrophe for American Jews, because Jews have historically always been burdened with this claim or this bogey of what's called dual loyalty. That is, Jews are loyal to their nation state, but they have a higher loyalty to international Jewry, from which all of this stuff about the international Jewish conspiracy and so forth arise. Well, now all of a sudden a state emerges which claims the primary loyalty of world Jewry. And the dual loyalty bogey suddenly now has a concrete institutional form. It's no longer just a creation or myth. It's now a factual reality. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, he says in the early 1950s that Jews must assist the state of Israel in all conditions and under any circumstances, whether the government to which the Jews in question owe allegiance desire it or not. And when he made this statement, it created a veritable hysteria among American Jewry,